Hello and welcome back to the final episode of the semester for the Fire in the Belly section of the Engler Journey podcast. I am so excited to be here and to wrap up the month of May with an amazing English student who's working on some really cool things. So we're going to dive right into this. Welcome to the podcast, Cody.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm excited.
It's going to be awesome. So to get started, I just want to talk a little bit about Cultivate Global. So you started, a little bit over a year ago, this organization, this nonprofit called Cultivate Global. Would you tell us a little bit about what that is, what you do, and then we'll get into how this started a little bit later.
Yeah, Cultivate Global is a registered nonprofit that we focus on facilitating and gathering resources to fund and support people overseas with different partners we have. The whole goal of it is it aligns with education and agricultural development, and through that we want to further the gospel. So those two things are reasons for us to be in these places.
That's awesome. So where are you from? How did you get involved in agriculture, but then also really diving into this area that you really care about with including the gospel and what you do with agriculture?
Yeah, originally I'm from Columbus, Nebraska, and was there for the first 11 years of my life. And my dad and Jim Pillen worked together for a lot of years. My dad's a veterinarian, and then about that time he decided to branch off and go more into his roots of farming. And so it's just kind of been instilled in me of swine production, pork production, and that's what we do. That's what I've done since I was just a little kid, and I love doing that. And ministry's just been a big part of my life. I've seen a lot of brokenness in my life, and I'm super grateful for the people that have been around me and the education I've had, and those who have poured into me. And I just feel like through ministry I want to give back in that way too.
Yeah, that's super awesome. So I just would love to hear how this idea came to be, because I feel like you're in Tanzania, like you're working with people over there. How did those connections happen for a kid from Columbus, Nebraska?
Yeah. Well, when I was, a few years ago, I was in Texas for a summer working with underprivileged kids, and super great opportunity. And one of those weekends I called home and I called my dad, and at that time our family was living in Central City area, and I don't know what he was doing, but I think he was at the school, and I called him, and he didn't have a lot of time to talk, but I was just pouring my heart out of kind of what I felt like God was growing in me, a heart for ministry. And back home at our farms, we have what we call a trainee program where they get a J1 visa to come around the world and work for us for a year. Really cool opportunity. We've had people from Philippines, Japan, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Vietnam, Taiwan, Tanzania, Rwanda, and I know I'm missing a few, but a lot of different countries. And I love getting to connect with these people from all over the world. And I told my dad, just as it's pouring out my heart, wouldn't it be really cool if we did something to help these people that really come from nothing, and their goal is to create a better life for themselves, and they're a big part of our business. And that's kind of where the idea started, and it spun from there to where it is now. It evolved to a lot of different things of what I originally intended it to be, but it's in a good place now.
I love that. That's so cool. So you've gotten connected in Tanzania. What was your original, like, obviously you had some people working for you, but who helped you kind of develop that idea more than just having it be an idea into something real?
Yeah, so right when I got back from Texas a few years ago, I met a guy who had just got to our farm from Tanzania, and his name's Justine Mbaga, and we really hit it off, talked for hours, and I was tired. I had just gotten back, got off the plane, and our hearts just really aligned, and it was clear to me it wasn't really a coincidence that he was there with us. He's a solid believer, which is important to me, and just our values were the same and what we wanted to accomplish. And so he kind of helped me adapt what's more practical for Tanzania itself, because I hadn't been there, and it's a lot different than farming in the United States or education in the United States. And so over the year that he was with us, I got to know him really well and got to work with him quite a bit. And before he left, I promised him nothing, really. I said, I can't promise anything's going to happen. But I saw where he came from. He came from nothing, and someone gave him a chance, and he made the most of it. So, we had this idea to model that. And I did promise him that I would try. Mm-hmm. And so there I went about the process of trying to start a nonprofit and having no clue what I was doing at all. And at that point, I just kind of felt like, this isn't my mission. I feel called to this. I didn't feel a lot of pressure. I felt like if it happens, it happens. And so I went about filing. I got my EIN number. And then after that, I had to file our articles of incorporation. And once you get approved for that, then you have to file your bylaws stating, how you're going to run your business. And again, as I'm going through this process, having no clue what I'm doing. And after that, we can finally file for the 501c3 process.
Right. That's the process of getting your tax exemption to make it really a nonprofit so that people can donate, right? That's the whole.
Right. So that's a big part of it. And that's a process. It costs a little bit just to apply, and then they take it, or say it can take about 6 months before you get approved or hear back. And we got approved in 3 months, wow. which was awesome, and kind of affirmed my calling of, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, having that status is super important because it gives people who want to contribute the ability to write that off on their taxes and their income. And it also allows us to kind of go through some loops of not having to pay different income tax or expenses, tax on top of those. So it's a really big deal. And I went about that process and staying in touch with Justine the whole time. And it's just a cool journey. Learned a lot.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So ultimately, just getting that allows you to give more to what you're working on. So tell us, what are you working on in Tanzania right now? What's the most recent updates?
Yeah. So how I designed Cultivate Global was to be able to partner with a lot of different people down the road. And our first partnership seemed so obvious, so clear. And it was with Justine and a program called Cornerstone Agricultural Schools of Africa. We call it CASA. And what we're working on there is it's really modeling Justine's life. We're targeting kids that come from tribal regions and maybe Muslim families, Christian families, and giving them an opportunity to be educated. Most of them, their parents aren't educated. They come from nothing. It's really kind of a dead end, neglected from the society. And we want to reach out to these people and give them an opportunity at education and give them a chance. I think, I want to give everyone a chance that I possibly can. And by doing that, we get to offer them education and focus on agricultural development. Because in that region, that's what they need to know. So it's a cool curriculum design that as they age, right now we just have younger students in that system, but as they age, we'll grow the system with them. We'll grow the curriculum with them, and the facilities will continue to expand. And so by the time they're done with high school, there's really no reason to go to college, which it's a whole different culture anyway.
Right.
It probably wouldn't go anyway, but we want them to be able to leave high school with the tools of being able to read, write, speak English, basic education, and on top of that, having the ability to be sustainable and profitable in agriculture. And so with that project, we're in the process of about a $250,000 on-site farm in which these kids and students can get firsthand experience learning how to produce agriculture, and opening that up to the community as well for local farmers.
That's just so amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get to see what continues to develop. But can you give us a glimpse from what you know? So you haven't been to Tanzania yet. You get to leave in the next couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I leave a week from Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, so you're like 10 days away from when we're recording right now.
We're getting close.
A week from when the podcast goes live is when you're leaving. So you haven't been there, but you obviously have worked really close with these people. Can you give us a glimpse of what that culture, what the cultural norms are? Just that, because it's sometimes hard to really grasp what people need when we just aren't familiar with it. So I just would love to hear a little bit more about what life is like, specifically, for Justine even.
Yeah. Like you said, I haven't been there, but part of me feels like I have, because how involved I've been just over FaceTime or the phone, or having these people with us. You get a glimpse into their culture too while they're here. But I'd explain it or describe it as a very simple living style. Mm-hmm. They don't have much, and very content. But what I see is a lot of fire and a lot of hunger for success from these people. And obviously, that's not going to be everywhere, but I see a want to there. And so that's part of why I want to serve these people in this way, is because, I know I don't have to hand them anything, and I'm not going to hand them anything, but they're going to work for it. Going over there, I mean, the culture's different. Most of the students come from, kind of like straw, clay huts as houses, and maybe have 2 pairs of clothes, eat a meal a day, don't have much. Like, really we're blessed here, so much so, and I've really acknowledged that over the last couple of years. But being able to see how content these people are is really inspiring to me, but also how much fuel they have in them to want to be successful and not take things for granted motivates me to do more. Yeah, for sure. So as you have gone through this process, what did your family think? Because this isn't a normal little side gig that you've started. This is something that's very prominent and can go on a really long time. Yeah. My roots are in Sutton, Nebraska. I've kind of been around the state, and last 8 years been Central City area, but that's where we farm and live our lifestyle, and kind of starting this first kind of idea, turning a side gig, turning into like a reality. My family was first supportive of this might not, we'll support and see where it goes. And I think for sure there was hesitancy there of, I'm 22, I'm young, I don't even have my diploma yet from college, and still trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. But really felt a calling to this. And when I was able to explain that to my family, where I really felt like this is not my mission, this is not about me at all, but God's given me the ability to do this, and gifted me with this. Of not everyone has this opportunity. So when I was able to explain that to my family, that they jumped on board. It was a slower process, but now my parents are my biggest supporters for sure, and that's gaining traction. Of there's a lot of doubt at first, especially from extended family, even some immediate family. But when people see what God's doing, they jump on board, and that's contagious to other people, and that's helped a lot gain support for what we're doing. Yeah,
that's amazing. And so awesome that you get to be blessed with a family that is supportive. I know sometimes it's hard to watch people that you love take risks in ways that can lead to heartbreak and disappointment. Like it's not always easy. So, as you've been growing and developing in this, I want to get a little bit more on the technical side. You applied, but before you applied for the 501c3, what did you do to get the word out or to start raising awareness, maybe looking at investors for this mission?
You know, a lot of that, in complete honesty, was just prayer and holding my hands wide open and saying, okay, God, where do you want this to go? And I strategically reached out to a few people for initial investment, and you don't get a lot of initial investment when you haven't done anything, and but was able to raise some, and that was helpful. But you know, what was the most helpful is I saw God just provide people at the right times. I didn't know the process to apply for becoming a nonprofit. I didn't know the steps and what you had to do, and people coming alongside me at the right times, people I've never met before. They're like, hey, I want to help you with this. I've done this, and saving me thousands of dollars on attorney fees. And it was just a really smooth process when it could have and should have probably been a lot more stressful.
Yeah.
And again, I credit that to, like, I didn't feel a lot of pressure in doing this. I felt like if this is supposed to happen, it's going to happen. And there's a lot of logistical things. Getting approved to be a 501c3 tax-exempt organization by the IRS is not a small thing.
No,
and especially when you're looking at a 22-year-old dude still in college running an organization. It's kind of on a wing and a prayer. And like I said, it got approved in 3 months. So that really affirmed what I was doing.
That's awesome. What kind of advice would you have for students or entrepreneurs out there that are looking at starting a nonprofit or trying to get into the realm of giving more? Because I know there's a lot of people that want to set up funds for that. What type of advice would you give to those people as they're starting out on that journey?
Yeah. I think the first thing is you have to acknowledge why do I want to do this? And why am I doing this? And to really find the purpose for why you're doing that. What's going to drive you to continue to do that? For me, it all stems from what I believe, the gospel in my faith. But first, for people to be able to acknowledge, why do I want to do this? And then you got to be bold, and you got to be outgoing, and you got to put in the work of reaching out to random people you don't know and trying to form connections and seeing where that takes you. But I think the biggest thing is just acknowledging, like, you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen, and just do your part.
Yeah.
Just reach out to people and learn as you go. Like, I learned so much by trial and error of, like, first time I tried to raise money, it's like, man, that did not go super well.
Right.
I have no clue what I'm doing. And you just kind of learn by mistake. And I honestly wouldn't want to take that away from me of, like, I wouldn't want someone to just come in and, like, hey, do it this way right away and you'll make a lot of money. I think there's so much value in you learning as you go by your own mistakes. But the biggest advice I'd give people is be bold and be willing to put yourself out there. If you got an idea and you got a dream and you feel called to something, put yourself out there and be bold.
That's awesome. I love that. So you're graduating. What has this organization and this Cultivate Global, has this impacted your plans for after graduation? And how is this something that you are going to continue to work on?
It's impacted really my life beyond graduation. And my dream or my plan growing up was always just, okay, I'm going to get my degree. Didn't really want to go to college. Would rather have just gone farm right away, but going to get my degree and go farm and settle down, and that's what I want to do. And, the last few years have been crazy. And Cultivate Global started as an idea and really grew into my passion. And ultimately the passion is ministry and serving people, because at the end of the day, like, we all fall short. We all deserve nothing. And to be able to offer people, some sort of sustainability, but to show them like the spiritual need as well is like really impactful for me. So after college, I took a job. I'm going to be a pastoral resident at my church here in Lincoln. And with that, I'm going to be able to continue to pursue Cultivate Global and in general, just ministry as a whole. People locally, really passionate about younger college students and pouring into them, and then also obviously overseas with Cultivate Global. So long term, I don't know for sure, but the next couple of years, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know there's a lot of different philosophies on, paying yourself as an employee for owning a nonprofit. A lot of different people that own nonprofits do things different ways. What is, like, have you been able to pay yourself? Have you invested in yourself to pay for the time that you've put into this? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah. This answer won't make sense to a lot of people. And from a lot of perspective, what I do is, like, doesn't make any sense, because from the world's eye, all I do is lose financially, lose time. And but no, Cultivate Global doesn't pay any employee. It's for all volunteer, and I want to keep it that way. So I never want to become financially dependent on Cultivate Global. I always want to be able to do other things to provide income, and God's given me the ability to work, and I love to work, so I know I can. But no, nonprofits can pay. You can set it up, payroll, and maybe down the road, if we need more help in employees, I might have to do that. But right now, I do 95% of the work, and I view it as my contribution, my way in which I can serve and give, and both financially and in time. And because I've grown so much through it, I feel like I am getting paid in a lot of ways. Maybe not financially, but just through purpose and joy, and just a lot of deeper things than finances.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't think there's a right or wrong. It depends on where you're at, but it's fascinating, because it's not an easy thing to do, to start a nonprofit, to get that rolling. So being able to do that purely out of the desire to give is awesome. So why do you do this? Because a lot of people have the goal when they're starting businesses or in entrepreneurship is, okay, the goal is to make money. They always have another why. Your goal is to make impact, but what is your why on top of that?
Yeah. Like I said, it all stems from my faith. And when people ask me that, why do you do this? I was reading one day in the Word, in the Bible, and this hit me in the face, is 1 John 3:17 and 18, but highlight just the one verse, and essentially saying, like, if anyone has the world's goods and sees a brother in need, does not help them, like, how does God's love abide in them? And for me as a Christian, that really hit me and convicted me of, we are so blessed in this country. I'm so blessed in the family I have, where I've grown up. Like, I have everything I need, and beyond that. And even though I'm young and haven't done much career-wise, I really took that as a challenge of, these people are in need, and they need in a lot of ways, physically, with food and shelter and education, and ultimately spiritually, where we all need to recognize our need. But that's why I do it. It's rooted in that. It's rooted in the gospel, and it's so much bigger than myself.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. What's been your biggest win so far? Like, maybe it was with something that was able to be donated, or pictures you got that just lit you up. What was the biggest thing that, like, felt surreal?
One of my favorite things I've received is a video of these students are learning English, and that's not super common in their region. And there's this little boy, probably like 6 years old, and he's like screaming what he's learning, and he's naming all his body parts in English. And I just thought it was the cutest thing. And I've received a lot of photos, a lot of videos, and that one's always stuck with me. But another biggest win was, we set our financial goals for phase one. This, like I said, with CASA, it's a 3-phase system where we're trying to raise money in 3 different stages. And we set our goal for phase one at the beginning of 2023, and we hit that in 2 months.
Wow.
And it was planned for the whole year to be able to pursue that. And obviously we still
oh my gosh.
We still have a lot of needs financially, and the more people give and the more people are convicted to give, like the more we can do. Because I feel like God is truly using this ministry and everyone that's involved. So that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, there's no reason to give anymore. He's hit his goal.
Right.
But what it's shown me is like what I can set as a goal, it really doesn't mean much, because it could go way beyond that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big win.
Yeah, that's amazing. Abby Miller was just on, and she shared a quote that was, "Planning is everything and plans are nothing."
Right.
So, and I feel like what you just said really relates to that. How can our community here in Engler, but then the entrepreneurial community in general, how can we support you as you're going through this process of continuing to launch? This is far from just being off the ground. It feels like there's so much further to go, and yet you've made amazing strides with this organization. So how can we continue to support you? What does that look like?
Yeah, Engler's been very beneficial for me. Obviously, people probably ask around, like, who's Cody Greiss? I haven't really put my name in a lot and got super involved in ways, and I prefer it that way with what I'm doing. I don't want my name to be tied in with Cultivate Global very much. So I've kept it off the radar. But Dave Lamb, he's going to hate that I just said his name, but he's been huge in pushing me to do this. And, Engler as a whole, getting to see people continue to pursue their dreams, and I'd love for people to continue to pursue nonprofits similar. That'd be super rewarding for me to see people succeed in that. But whatever people believe, or if they align with me, like prayer is a huge thing, and financial contribution is a huge thing. But also, if people have expertise in certain things and say, hey, I might be able to help Cultivate Global in this way, reach out, because like I said, it's not my ministry, it's not my thing, and I want everyone to be a part of it if they have a desire to be.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I have one last question, and it's what we wrap up all of our episodes with, but what gives you and keeps your fire in the belly alive?
People and the gospel of I wouldn't have a fire in my belly without the Holy Spirit, compelling me to serve. And so that might be a different answer than what people give or what people look for. But ultimately, like I pointed to that of, I wouldn't be where I'm at without that. I wouldn't be pursuing this without that. I've been given so much on this earth, but also eternally through the gospel. And so that compels me to do everything I do. And
awesome.
Just so happens this came out of that.
It's so great. I love watching this journey. So thank you so much for joining today. This is so great, and we are going to be wishing you so much luck on your adventure to Tanzania in a couple weeks.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Makenna.
Yep, thank you.